They were actually going to make a cure. The only catch, it would kill her. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing? I won't let you take her. This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
Welcome to a special episode of Platinum Explosion, focused entirely on The Last of Us Part 2. Today's episode is a full spoiler cast, meaning you shouldn't listen and or watch to this episode till you have beaten the game in full. This is going to be your only warning. No time there's going to be a spoiler warning. So if you haven't beaten the game yet, pause this, beat the game, come back later, because we're primarily, probably most likely only going to be talking about spoilers with little discussion on anything that's not a spoiler, or probably not going to really talk about the gameplay much either, because if you would like to hear spoiler-free thoughts and probably more discussion on what we like about the gameplay, negatives and positives, probably go listen to this week's normal episode, Platinum Explosion, because that's probably where you're going to find the majority of that. This is probably just going to be all about the story. And what a story we have to talk about. So joining me for this, Ciaran Marchant.
Hey, it's me.
How are you? How are you? I was about to say, let's just get into it. Because I finished it. When did I finish it?
2 days ago?
Yeah, 2 days. I finished.
It was like,
time.
It was 4 o'clock yesterday morning, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it feels like 2 days ago, but it's technically only one, I guess, but something. But you've only just finished it a couple hours ago.
About 3 hours ago, yeah.
By the time we're recording this. So how are you feeling at the moment? And like we'll talk a little bit about the ending a bit later, obviously, but are you feeling like you enjoyed the game? Do you hate the game?
I loved it overall. I really love this game, but not from like a love of like, I don't know. For me, this game's special because I don't think this game is really like any game that's ever been done. I don't believe that in terms of narrativeness. Like, I don't know how somebody like yourself, I don't know how I'd put a number on this game. I think it's just one of those things where I'm like, if I look at it from a gameplay aspect, yeah, I can pull, different threads and everything. But from a narrative, it's so amazing what they've done. Even with there being leaks, it was amazing what hadn't come out about the game. I didn't have anything spoiled for me, but...
Neither did I, but to quickly jump in on that, because obviously I went and looked up what they are, the spoilers were Joel died and you play as his killer, which really in the big scheme of things to get spoiled, doesn't even touch on the surface of what the game...
It doesn't break down, and, people making memes about, that Abby kills Joel with the golf club and everything. I think what's interesting is I read your opinion piece while the credits were playing, because I
what a mood
something.
piece with the music and everything.
Yeah, those credits were something else for me. But I think in the end, I think I have a bit of a different opinion to everybody else, or a lot of other people. I've watched another spoiler cast. I've listened to a couple of things. I've read some bits.
Fuck, you were fast if you only finished it like 3 hours ago.
Yeah, no, I watched the spoiler cast and I was, literally just been reading and just kind of decompressing and organize my own thoughts, but then also compare my thoughts to other people. And I think it's very different for me because I know, and not speaking for you, but I know a lot of people connect with Abby a lot in this game and they love Abby as a character. And a number of people have said by the end of this game, they like Abby's story a lot more than Ellie's story and they're more attached to it. Well, for me, even though I appreciate Abby's character, I loved Abby's character and I loved her story arc for several different reasons, I still just couldn't get over... I just have such a connection with Ellie. Like, I have such a thing for Ellie where she's just got this place in my heart where I just want to protect her, and she deserves the best. Like the fight scene in the theater between Abby and Ellie, I fucking hated. I absolutely hated it. I hated playing as Abby in that moment because I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to hurt Ellie. Except for one point where I was like, you know, it made me feel like an NPC in the game because there was one point where I like turned a corner, hid behind something, and as I looked over, a fucking Molotov came out of nowhere, just like thrown over the top and just killed me. And I was like, oh, that's what that feels like. But
yeah, well, it's funny you say that because I don't mind if we kind of jump around.
yes,
because there's a lot, and you know, train of thought might go over the place. But on that, I do find that fight interesting because it really is like, hey, you know, all those people that you've murdered as Ellie over the last couple hours, now you get to kind of experience what it's like on the opposite end as you see her placing traps and throwing shit around and whatever else. It's like, and literally Abby's like, what is she doing? It's like she's planting bombs to blow you up into a million little bits. Like, it's kind of fucked up.
it's like, it just shows the difference in terms of Abby is a very militant person in the way she's been trained, where Ellie's been kind of brought up on this survive by all costs kind of, you know, person with Joel. And yes, from everybody's point, and the truth about the original game and this game, in fact, is that Joel is the bad guy. He is the, what you would call the antagonist of this whole story because his actions are pretty fucking questionable and the way his methods of doing stuff. But I still connect like hell with Joel. Like, I still, like, Joel and Ellie's relationship still is so important to me, and I understand that, you know, the main through line of this is a story about revenge because it's what Joel's actions do that go later down the line. And it's very easy that this could have been a multiple layered revenge story of Abby gets revenge on Joel, Ellie gets revenge on Abby, and then I was like, wait, does that mean future down the track Lev gets revenge on Ellie? And then it, you know, this whole layer of just death and destruction continuing, and I'm glad that that was a little bit circumvented, and that's not where this kind of finished up overall. It's a very heavy storyline though, like narratively it's so heavy, and so
I definitely don't think I've played anything this heavy in a game before. And like there's been some other stuff. I know I've seen a lot of people online bring up Spec Ops: The Line and other video game stories that just handle quite dark thematic stuff. But this, I think, just takes it to a whole nother level. And the last couple hours of this game are just probably the most draining shit ever. In particular, because as I talked about my opinion piece, I hated playing that last couple hours. I hated playing, and I think it's done on purpose, the fact that they make you hate playing it. They're like, you know, we're approaching the end, but fuck it, here, fight some more clickers, here, fight like a whole bunch of more enemies, and every time you kill them you have to walk up and press square as they're like begging for their life, and Ellie's just like, fuck you, and like make sure to slam them all down. It just feels so monotonous and mundane, and like just it's so, I think, just ring home the never-ending cycle of this violence to that point. But just, it's like between that and then the final battle scene, I was just like, I was literally quite tempted to just pause and be like, I can't do this. I just like I'll come
it's
back.
just, you know, the scene where she leaves the farmhouse after, because I felt numb during the farmhouse, and I think I echoed a lot of where it was very much like, is this how this ends? Like, is this how? I don't feel like this is an earned happy ending.
No,
like I don't feel like this is earned or
it wouldn't have been. That's the point.
Yeah, it's the point, and that's 100%. I'm echoing what Ellie feels by the point, but there's that moment of sitting with JJ on that tractor and Ellie talking to JJ about stuff that is, you just wish it could be the end.
I sat there for quite some time. It was like I know we've talked about it before. It's like those Last of Us, Life is Strange moments where they just let you chill out and relax, and just the music plays and the camera pans around and you can sit there for as long as you want. Or what is most comparable to in Last of Us terms, it is this game's equivalent to the giraffe scene. Yeah. I've seen lots of people online be like, there's no happy moment like the giraffe scene. I'm like, you're wrong, because this game's giraffe scene is the tractor scene.
I think this game has so many happy moments.
It does really. You just get lost by the end.
The problem is that it descends into kind of, but I think that's what you're supposed to feel as Ellie, because when you look at the whole story together, you see Ellie's and Abby's storylines are kind of the same thing. They're just at two different stages. When we meet Abby at the start of the game, Abby's at the end of her revenge kind of cycle. She's at the end, she gets the revenge, and then the rest of her story throughout this game is the redemption, her moving on with her life, her trying to figure out what the fuck everything meant and how to move on. Where we're in Ellie's rage-driven revenge plot is where she's just blinded by this need to kill Abby. She's blinded in the horrors that she goes through to do it. Is just messed up. Like it's not the fact that just in the quest mission or a task to kill one person, you kill hundreds of people.
Yep. Or I mean, even if you play the game in a way that you try and sneak through more segments, you're still at bare minimum killing all of her best friends and closest friends.
It's so, and I know you've said this in your article, but when the game switches you over to Abby, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you do not try and get me to like this character. You don't get to do this to me. I refuse. And I was really reluctant to keep playing the game for the next couple hours because I was like, I don't want to do this. I know what you're going to do. You're going to attempt to make me like characters that I've just killed off. You're going to try and get me to humanize Abby a little bit more, to understand the truth behind everything. And even if you don't want it to happen, the game fucking makes it do it. It makes it happen because of how well it's written. And like just how even at the start of that section where you see Alice, the dog, and I kind of semi-joked, which you just killed, and I'm like, I just fucking killed this dog.
Yeah.
And then by the end of Abby's section where you walk into the aquarium and there's the shot of Abby and Lev walking into the room with Alice's body on the floor, that's fucking heartbreaking. Like that, I felt a pit in my stomach for that section of the game because I did that. Like I was responsible, or me playing as Ellie was responsible for the deaths of these people. Like, even though at the few points I thought he was a jackass, Owen was a great character.
I think he comes off as obviously a jackass originally, but the more you get to know him and the more you get this understanding slowly, especially when he's saying things like criticizing the Fireflies and saying, we were the bad guys, Abby. Like, we bombed innocent people. You kind of get a better understanding of him. And the fact that by the time you reach the end of the game, he's well in front of Abby before she decides to head off in a different direction. He's like, I'm done with the wolves. I'm done with the Firefly shit. Maybe this new branch of the Fireflies could be the version of them that I actually wanted them to be. I'm going to go try and find them. Like, fuck, I'm off.
Even just in the case of he is the one that points out the main importance of this plot, where Abby asks him, what happened between us or what happened back then? And his answer is, well, we lost sight of the light. And that through point is established by the flashbacks with Abby's dad, where Abby's dad is talking about, as long as we're looking towards the light and going towards the light, we're doing the right thing. We're doing what's important. And it is very much about characters that have lost their view of the light. Abby finds her opinion and her through point of the light by getting to know and bonding with Yara and Lev. Freaking Ellie loses her light. She even has an opportunity to get that light back with Dina and JJ, and she turns away from it and walks away. And that moment is so heartbreaking, and I understand why she has to do it, and I understand her reasoning behind it, but at the same time, it's like, I just want to hug you, Ellie, and just not let you go, Like, I just want to protect you from everything, because we all know that you walking away from this farmhouse is either meaning that you're not coming back.
Yeah, but that moment and several others, I think, ring true something that I've seen a lot of people kind of miss when they're discussing this game, which is that I've seen lots of people complain, like I've seen a big hot take, lots of people say about, the violence, like the game doesn't let you have any choice about the violence or the decisions that Ellie makes, and then it wants you to feel bad about them. And I'm like, no, I don't think the game's trying to make you feel bad. Like, it's just the fact is you're going to feel bad because you care about the character and the decisions that the character's making are bad. So therefore you feel bad. Like, it's the game isn't trying to make you feel bad about killing people. It's trying to make you feel bad about the fact that Ellie killed people. Like, playing The Last of Us is more like watching a movie than playing a normal type of video game. Like, you have no control of the characters and the decisions they're making, but you never did in the original Last of Us, and that was a big thing with that game. Like, there was no alternate ending. There was no choice. There was no option where you could choose to let Ellie die and like have several different endings. No, the Naughty Dog writes the game as like their narrative, their story to tell with their characters, and it's like, here's the ending, here's what happens, here's what the go is. So it's like Ellie kills a whole bunch of people horrifically. Yes, are you supposed to feel bad? Probably do, but you're not supposed to feel bad for doing it. Like, it's just you're a participant. You're an unwilling participant.
It does something that like a lot of video games don't do, which is that it brings humanity to things that you're fighting in the game. I think one of the ones is, and they brought this up on one of the spoiler casts I was listening to earlier, that, you know, even stuff like Vita Girl, that, you know, everybody had a laugh at State of Play when the Vita was involved and Ellie interacted with the girl with the Vita and everything. And, oh, it's Hotline Miami, blah, blah, blah. But when you run into Vita Girl when you're Abby, and Vita Girl is this fully bubbly character that's like interacting and everything.
She's like, we're just packing up, ready to go. Oh, hey, Abby, how are you?
Like, you know, even it's one of the small flaws about some of the mechanics of this game. I was, you know, by the end of the game, I was a bit over somebody crying over Zach who just died, because that was the name I picked up on every time that they.
Yeah, there's a few to me. When it starts repeating, the more you play the game, you hear the same name several times. It starts getting a little ridiculous.
But at the same time, it's like you understand that the Naughty Dog's trying to give. Like, he's trying to build up what is happening in this world and make everybody in this world important. There was one of the occasions I killed a dog and the owner started crying over the top of the dog that the dog just died. And I was like, fuck, that's not something you see in a video game. Like, that's not, you know, not randomly in NPCs. They're normally just hordes of people that you're trying to kill. And then it gets to those sections of towards the end where, yes, it's a little overdone, but you have those people that you need to walk up to and kill very close quarters as they're begging for their life. That it's just the monotony and what Ellie has to do and what Abby does to kind of lose themselves in this world and what this world has done to people.
That's what everyone. That's the kind of the thing. It's like you play the game, and we played the first game, you know, as Joel and Ellie, and you're so focused on their viewpoint. But this game really just brings home. It's like everyone and everything is fucking horrible. Like everyone is making dumbass, horrible decisions. Because even when you look at the two main factions in the game, the wolves and the scars, I kind of whatever it is, scars. When you look at them, it's like, okay, so you got these two factions just spending all their energy and time fighting one another when there's zombies running around and the world's at its end, but the humans are killing humans again because reasons. You know, like literally everyone is doing the same thing. When you go to the end of the game and you fight against that group who I name is the
Seraphites?
No.
Oh, no, sorry. The Railers?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like there's something about chains. But
before you sneak into their prison complex or whatever you want to call it, you can find a note near the gate there somewhere from this, like it's on this dead body, and the note says something like, "Oh, hey, like to tell you what, this place is fucked up. You're gonna get yours. We'll be back to take revenge," or something like that. So once again, different part of America, but what are you reading? The same shit happening, like just. In different groups are fighting, different people having the same sort of problems, you know, and maybe there's not someone else there like Ellie who is immune to the infection, but there's probably similar stories to Ellie and Abby happening with different characters all over the place who,
Yeah.
you know, have had sort of revenge missions spurred on by someone killing someone else, some sort of thing like that. So it's like, I think, because video games, it's like, and especially, and a lot of the reasons I think people are obviously hating this game is because Joel's death, and then the fact that it tries to obviously make you understand why Abby did what she did. Because I feel like you could reach the end of the game, still be like, look, I don't really like her as a character, but I swear if you at bare minimum can't say you understand why she did what she did, I think like at that point it's not even worth arguing, because I don't think why she did what she did is up for argument, really. Like that's kind of, it's just full stop.
What she did is for the exact
is it
same
right?
reason.
Probably not, but it's understandable. You know,
But
like,
it's for the exact same reason that Ellie is on a rampage to get
exactly
her. It's the exact same reason that Joel killed everybody to get to Ellie.
Yeah, so it's like if you're okay with one,
like you
have to be okay with the other.
The thing is, it shows that everybody has a reason for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some of it's a shit reason that's just garbage, but other people have these reasons, and that's what drives them and motivates them. We see throughout Abby's flashbacks, through that period of time for years, she was just driven by hate and the need for revenge. It is why she is just yacked. Like, she has massive arms and is built as a machine to kill things, because that's all she cares about. She let a relationship with Owen die because she couldn't spend time with him just chilling out in an aquarium for an afternoon. She had to go back and start training.
Yeah. Got to be able to kill Joel. Which is the parallel to exactly what Ellie does at the end of the game. She tries to settle down, but she can't. She needs to go get her revenge, even though it's completely unnecessary. And what's that do? What's that do for her? But it's like when you put the timeline events in contrast, it's like Abby had 6 years of just being nothing but wanting revenge and not thinking about anything other than revenge. And in that 6 years, Ellie got to live, as far as we're all concerned, a rather peaceful, happy life between the ages of 14 and 19. So she got 6 years of peace. And I feel like if people get angry about like, oh, you know, like she doesn't get a break, blah, blah, blah. She got 6 years. Like, and I'm not trying to say like, I don't wish she had got, you know, the entirety of her life, and Last of Us 2 kind of didn't happen, and then Ellie and Joel just lived in happily ever after, and you know, but then we wouldn't have a video game because that video game would probably be rather boring. But she did at least get 6 years before this happened, and Abby tracked down and took her revenge. And I think even the fact that Abby lets Ellie go at the start shows that she has a little bit of more sympathy than even Joel would have had. Because the important thing about Joel that we learned about him throughout the entire first game, I think if you put that in a sort of opposite position, imagine Joel trying to get revenge on someone, would he have left two people who were not the person he was trying to kill alive? No, he would have killed them. He would have been like, kill them. They're dying. Exactly. No one left alive. So there's so many things between that and thinking about everything that Joel did in the first game. And, you know, I talked about this a lot when we did our replay discussion on Platinum Explosion, obviously, but it's like, I wanted Joel to save Ellie at the end of the game. I'm glad that he did. However, the fact is still probably not right the way, you know, like maybe used a stun gun and take her out that way.
I don't think he had a stun gun, buddy.
No, but then also the way he just kills Marlene, of course, that's like a big hang up I have of like pure cold-blooded kind of murder, but
I kind of support him most with Marlene. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a definite one you need to make sure it does not come back. But you know, this game has this amazing power to it. The amount of times you walk down that corridor back to the surgery as different characters is so fucking powerful, and it's something I just didn't expect to happen throughout this game. Because that corridor has such a significance to people who have played the first one and love the first one, that it's just, you know, you're walking to save Ellie. You're walking and you have this determination of, I'm going here to save Ellie. And then you do the same walk as Ellie. And that is a determination walk of, I'm going to find out what actually happened here. And then it's used throughout Abby's flashbacks or her dreams as
a horror movie.
As her horror movie of her, you know, the first time, the real thing that happened with her walking in to find Owen with her dead dad. And And then afterwards, it's to show, she walks through and there was the scene with the hanging. And then her final time you walk down that corridor, she finds her light. She finds the light in her dreams. And you can use the similarities between her flashbacks of that walking and Ellie's PTSD moments. Because
she runs down the stairs to the door that Joel was behind.
She runs down this, but also she keeps just seeing throughout the whole thing, she just keeps seeing Joel's battered face is the whole thing. And it's all and then in that last moment, which stops the fight, she sees Joel at the flashback that you're just about to see. And that is Ellie kind of finding her light again and being able to look past the darkness that is Joel's death for her. She can look back at that beautiful moment of reconciliation between two characters that we've all come to love and care about. And those words of, I can't forgive you for this, but I'd like to try. It just means so much. And it's so ridiculous to think that these characters can make people feel so emotionally connected just with, characters in a video game. It's ridiculous. The only reason I'm even thinking about ever replaying this game again is because I want to play through again and look through Joel and Ellie's relationship, because I think the biggest thing that was surprising when I first started this game as playing as Ellie was Ellie still doesn't know. Ellie still hasn't found out about what Joel's done. And that's how it seems, because at the start of the game, Ellie is talking about Joel in a rather loving manner, a very, respectful and loving manner. She has that moment with Dina about, I'm going to probably have a movie night with Joel tonight, which comes off as, it's something they've done thousands of times in this life, and they get to spend time together. And then by the end of the game, you realize that is Ellie, that potential movie night was Ellie's first step on...
That was her olive branch.
That was her olive branch to try and start this reconciliation between the two of them, to start the forgiveness process again.
Because at that stage, they would have not really been talking for, I think, 2 years?
2 years or something like that.
Something like that, basically. Like bare minimum kind of talking as members of the community, but not as the relationship they once had.
Yes, correct. And that's just heartbreaking to know that was taken away from her, and that was taken away from the world, was the opportunity for them to start rebuilding and regrowing because of the shadows of Joel's previous actions kind of coming back to bear.
I want to dive into some hot questions I've seen because of course once I beat the game I could unmute on my Twitter mutes, and I was like, all right, let me find out why people are giving this a 3 on Metacritic and find out what the hot criticism is, and a lot of it revolves around Joel and stuff. But one of the key things I keep seeing people bring up online when I was looking into it is people complaining that Joel just seeing Abby at the start and being like, hey, come with us, we'll protect you. They're like, that's so out of character. To which I say no, because you don't know who the fuck Joel is at this point, really. It's 6 years later. He's settled down. I think every scene you see with him in this game, to me, and that's why I think in even my review or something, I referred to Joel as in the 6 year he's grown into his more paternal role. He's more of a daddy now, to put it simple.
Even just, I think people have missed stuff like going through his house.
It's just a fucking family home. It's
it's such a normal, he's got a little hobby room where he's been carving, and he has a little stand where he's playing guitar and playing more guitar around stuff. He's got mementos of, there's the pamphlet for the dinosaur museum in his living room, where even though we don't know what that's from just yet,
but
it's still of importance for him. Other characters speak of Joel as a pillar in their
community,
in their community. Everybody has such respect for Joel as a whole. When Jesse talks about Joel, Jesse reveres Joel. Jesse looks up to Joel, and he obviously has a lot of respect for him. You can see Joel has become, I think Joel has allowed himself, because he saved Ellie and they've gone back to Jackson together, and because he has Ellie, he's allowed himself to relax and become a part of that community, to embrace being a part of that community. And it probably wasn't a thing that happened overnight. Like, it probably took months of those two living together, but just the interactions between Joel and Ellie are just so, like, other than the arguments later in the game, they're just filled with so much love. Like, that day in the museum for Ellie's birthday, that is such a special moment. Like, that is, I don't think there's ever been a moment like that captured in video games ever. Like,
in particular, the space landing scene.
Yeah, the space landing scene and the obvious efforts that he's gone through to
find this place,
probably clear it out a little bit if there's been any kind of infected anywhere. He probably has already dealt with it. He, just the loving section of him pushing Ellie into the river, and probably the whole world's joined cry out in yes, she knows how to swim. Just that kind of loving connection between them where it's just something so special. And so it was those moments where I kept being like, throughout playing the game, and this game as a whole, I found this several points throughout the middle game very fucking tense and very full on and very just like on edge. And so there'd be moments where I'd be just about to put the controller down and be done for a little while when one of those flashback sequences would happen. And I'd instantly be like, oh, well, I can't stop now. I need to play through this section. I need to get this. And I remember the museum being one of those sections and being just Ellie being that character, like just being that child of just pure amusement. Joel asking her, well, why don't you tell me about some of the space stuff? And she just starts going 100 miles per hour of just like talking about space facts and different bits and pieces. And it's just so, like, it was hard to play that part without a bittersweet smile on your face, because this doesn't last forever. This is a moment in time that is something special to her forever, and she's never going to get anything like this again.
I'll tell you one special moment that you missed, Ciaran, though, because I looked at your trophies. So
I did. No. I've had this spoiled for me, and I was very upset that I didn't put the hat on Joel's head.
You put the hat on Joel's head, and
the hat.
It's a moment. It's quite funny.
Yes. No, I did not. But like, even just, I don't feel like I'm like, oh, that'd have been a nice moment, but I don't feel like I've majorly missed out, because even just the small moments of like Joel talking about Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like
and
Joel
he talks about, and then you talk about other dinosaurs. He's like, oh, she's like, is that from the same movie? And he's like, no, that's from the sequel.
He's like, that's from the second one, which,
he's like, it's not as good.
Not as good. It's just funny that, they just have these moments throughout the game, and like just that relationship I think now has so much more complexity and levels to it that I think that would be a driving factor for me playing through the game again and understanding exactly what Ellie's going through now.
Yeah, I think the other important thing I was thinking about with all this stuff with how Joel is in this is that when everyone thinks they know Joel because of the Joel we saw in The Last of Us, but we never actually understood what type of person Joel was pre the outbreak. Because of course you see him at the start, you see how upset he is when his own daughter dies, but then we skip ahead, what is it, 18 years? Something
20.
like that? 20 years?
20 years.
Something ridiculous? Yeah, it's like the dude has become a hardened motherfucker, to put it plainly, right?
Yeah.
So we have no idea of how much of a softie he potentially was, apart from a couple small moments he has at the start of the game. So, and then as you play through the original, you see him, that hardened shell, slowly break down in front of Ellie, and then of course by the time you're at the end of the game, he's starting to crack, and like he obviously has formed this attachment to this girl and stuff. And so of course I think if you see that cracking at the end of the first game to the point he does what he does to save her, then I think it's easy to say 6 years later, obviously I would say that the kind of shell is fully crushed out, and out comes this soft interior of Joel, who's kind of let way this hardened shell he had to build himself to survive in the apocalypse, so I don't personally think that moment where he is like, a random girl, yes, I will try and save her. I think that's just fitting. Like, it's like
that's the thing with like that community in Jackson is built on the ideals of we're here to look out for humanity. They talk about, traders coming through at different moments.
Yeah.
Or helping each other and picking. And it's like, that's what they do in Jackson. That's why Jesse is so shocked when he gets to Seattle and they start shooting at him on sight.
Yeah. They've had moral. They only ever talk about on their routines as well. They only talk about looking out for stragglers and, they're looking out for zombies. They're not looking out for people because I guess they're used to anyone they run into, traders and whatever else, being normal
and like even like you read notes of their routines throughout the route that you go on with Dina and Ellie, and there's several occasions where they're like, we've cut our route short, we found somebody, we're bringing them back.
Yeah,
like we'll end the route here and we're just going straight back to Jackson with them. Like they were trying to help people and trying to bring people in, and Joel seemed to have really been accustomed to that life. Joel seemed to be, Joel and Tommy were thick of thieves again. Like they were, like once again, like just two brothers that were close knit, and I think it's why it affects Tommy so much by the end of the game. I got so angry with Tommy, but at the same time, I felt so heartbroken for him in that moment when he comes back. Him yelling
at Ellie was, it's like, dude, I get it, but stop, please.
Like it's almost shocking that, because Tommy has been such a lovable character throughout both games now. Also, he's the indestructible man, because I swear he died like 4 times during this fucking game, and he's just like, I've just got some like fucked up facial areas and my legs fucked, but other than that, I'm good.
You got shot through the side of his face.
Face. Funny small Tommy moment. I didn't realize Tommy was the sniper shooting at you I think I was like on the second level of the car park, and all of a sudden it clicked for me and I went, oh fuck, that's Tommy.
I was like, remember that time Jesse and Ellie were going somewhere and then they heard about a sniper and Jesse left?
Yeah, no, exactly, 100%. Where I was like, oh fuck.
So in case you're like, how did Tommy survive falling in the water? Let's presume that Jesse was there and saw it happen and probably ran in to save him at the last moment.
Yeah. Also, that, you know what? Manny's death hit me the hardest. Like, Manny's death was the most kind of...
Because he seemed the most chill of all the...
He was the most likable. I fucking... You know what? Start of the game, fuck that other guy that is talking in Spanish.
The Scarface dude who dies fast or whatever. Like, gets his mouth cut open.
No, it was Manny, because he spits on Joel.
Oh, that's right.
And he spits on Joel after Abby kills him. So, everybody else is a jackass, but those two were the worst two, because Abby killed him and the other guy spat on Joel and showed like...
To be fair, I also still didn't like him for quite some time because, and this is what I'm saying, like, I don't think anyone is supposed to like when the game starts making you play as Abby. I think a normal reaction from anyone playing this game is, ooh, why? Fuck this. I don't want to play as her. Yeah. I think that's exactly what is supposed to happen. I actually think it's kind of brave to design a game in this sort of way. But then also it doesn't rush to get you to make her like her. And in fact, it spends way too long, in my opinion. But anyway, but that first section where you're there with Manny and all that sort of stuff, and they're talking about Joel, and even then Manny says something along the lines of, it's like, well, fuck that guy, he deserved it. And it's like, you motherfucker. Like,
yeah, it's and I feel like it is kind of sad because I think a couple of those characters from that group didn't get a time to shine. Like Jordan got a little tiny bit. Leah did not even appear in Abby's kind of side of things because she's at the TV station the entire time. So there's a couple characters that you're like, oh, you didn't get used as much, sure. But
I think it would have been too many.
It's
like, Abby runs into all of them in that 3-day period. Magically, she visits every location Ellie was. That would have been too video gamey. Like, of course she was there right after every time.
Yeah.
The only time that you have a moment like that is at the hospital.
Yeah. And can I say, this is something that I think it's and I don't, please correct me if I stab on it, because I don't really think I've ever talked about this on a podcast or even really talked about it in person really, but this game did something for me that I don't think I've ever really had, and that was the conversation about gender identity that happens in this game as through the character of Lev.
When Abby's talking to what's my call about it? Or to Lev about it?
Well, both to Lev and she has a conversation about Yara, about what actually happened and everything. And you know, as a straight cis white male, I don't have to face these issues in my life. That just doesn't. It isn't something that I ever have to come across. Or yeah, it's just it's the luck of my position, I guess. But to see this game handle that conversation was fucking amazing. And you know what? I get it that there's spoilers around it at the moment. So some people who want to talk about it can't talk about it, but I'm surprised it isn't brought up more in conversations of people talking spoiler free. Of talking with spoilers, sorry, that...
Well, not to go on too much a tangent, but I just to cover that real quickly, just so it's out there, I have no problem with the embargo restrictions, and I think even if the embargo restrictions weren't in, I think even I wouldn't have mentioned Lev or any of that stuff, because it's like I feel like you should be able to review a game and say, should you play it or not, without having to fully discuss everything. But that's the reason why we have a fucking separate thing you can post after. And I literally put out my review and my opinion piece with spoilers at the same time, because I wrote them back to back, because as soon as I got done with one, I want to, it's like, I need to talk spoilers now. So people are like, oh, we can't talk spoilers. And they were saying this like before the game was out to the public. I'm like, well, of course not. No, I don't want to talk fucking spoilers. Now the game's out. Do your podcast, do your video series, do your fucking written article pieces. Please discuss how great Lev is. Please discuss the fact that Naughty Dog actually has a trans person playing that. It's a trans actor playing that person, Ian Alexander. Like, it's not a, I don't know what the equivalent for like whitewash would be for that, but you know what I'm saying. So that is definitely a standout thing to discuss from this game, but I don't think it's like, oh, boo-hoo, we can't discuss this because of spoilers. It's like, look, yeah, we can't, but please write about it after, like,
yes, yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing where I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't brought up on in a couple of things that I'd read or watched already, because I was like, for me, that was a huge moment of not only character building for Abby, but for me, that was a once-in-a-lifetime moment in video games. That a AAA title was tackling something like this in such a way, and it wasn't done in a shitty, on-the-nose way ever. For me, it was something that was a natural conversation that happened, that it wasn't, you didn't immediately, when Lev was brought into the game, you weren't like, you didn't know anything about their gender, it's a boy, it's a man. Like, that's... and that is the case, but you don't know any of the past or what they've been through at that moment.
I want to say I love how they do that, because then any transphobic people are just like straight away not questioning it. They're like, it's a dude, it's a dude, it's a dude. And then the second they get told otherwise, they're like, fuck.
Yeah, it's just even just the moment of when it's just Lev and Abby, and Lev goes, "Did you hear what they called me?"
Yeah, whatever.
And Lily was his name, was his previous name. And Abby goes, "I did. Do you want me to ask you about it?" And Lev goes, "No." Like that's just like, those moments are just so.
I feel like that's a teaching lesson, really.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, everything, especially revolved around that, is such a good role model of everything we should be for. The trans community, and just for people who are outside of it. I think it's a great educational moment, and it's so fantastic that Naughty Dog could do this in the medium of gaming and not have it be a big thing that's like, hey, look what we're doing.
Yeah, in a lot of ways this game is, I can't think of anything else that's like, this is one of the most expensive games, like we don't know how much money was put into this, but it's like 6-7 year dev cycle. Like, look at the production quality of this thing. This thing is fucking made of millions of dollars, right? And the fact that it is as the top of the line when it comes to kind of AAA games, and on the front cover you have you've got a lesbian star, you got a gay character starring.
The lesbian or gay relationship is featured extremely heavily throughout the entire piece.
Yep. Like, there's many things that are first in for like the AAA space. Now, of course, I've seen you see relationships in the LGBTQ spectrum more in indie games, are more likely to cover it. But when it comes to AAA, I definitely don't think I've seen anything to this degree, with this handle of care, and also with the fact that it's simply the characters. Like, it's not no part of this game's story revolves around any of the things we're discussing here. Even with when it comes to Lev, you could say slightly, because the reason they run away is because of shaving the head and to look more less feminine, masculine. That's right, sorry. To look more masculine, and obviously that's there, but it's once again you're not playing as that character, so it's not like on the heavy forefront, and it's just sort of sub-mentioned.
Even just the thing is with that point though is that that's a situation that is very, not to the extent, but that is very realistic in the world.
Real life, And they pretty much imply that the Scars are sort of like, they're a religious cult. Like, their religious leader is, they follow some sort of doctrine. And of course, Yara talks about at one stage that the like, if you read the writings, what the Scars are doing now isn't actually what their scripture or whatever says. But all of that basically leads you, like, you get the idea that the Scars are a religious cult. They're not following God, but they are following some sort of thing. So then to have the fact that a religious cult is, of course, transphobic, it's. I guess that's a little bit on the nose, maybe, but I didn't. It's not like if they straight up said the group is fucking Catholic and you know,
exactly.
You know, like
that'd be a bit.
It's like, and once again, it's not like I have a problem with any of these things were like the way the game wanted to go, but I do think it's like for people who like to complain about false diversity in games, it's like, well, this game doesn't have false diversity. It's just got diverse cast. Like, it's not forced. It's just diverse.
it's to think anything is quote unquote forced is so shit and annoying, and I really hate that discussion. But you know, back onto Last of Us, it's just this game's. Like, you know, in The Last of Us, the first game, we had one major relationship that you fucking got attached to and you loved. Yes, there was, you know, Tess was a great character. You loved the two brothers. There's, you know, there's...
Like Tess is good, but I never...
You never, like, grew attached or...
No, like, when she died, I was like, oh, that's bummer, but I'm moving on with my life pretty fast kind of thing. You know? It's one of those things where... like this game has maybe 4 or 5 potential of those like relationships that you can really get attached to and become a part of. It broke my heart when, you know, just as I've always said that my heart was always with Ellie and everything. When the moment that Ellie gets told that Abby was picked up in Santa Barbara months ago was like, oh fuck. Like that little flashback we played. That was months ago. Shit. Okay, what's happened there? Like what's happened since? It ain't going to be looking good. That's all I was thinking.
No, exactly. I was waiting for Lev to be dead and for her to be like completely just destroyed. And it is, you know, when you find both of them on the pillars, you could tell both of them have been through the shit. You know, I think it was
Lev
amazing.
Gone.
Lev is
like
pretty much
he's
close
laid out,
to death.
So.
Like he's and you know, Abby is, you know, muscularly and physically you can see she's a lot smaller.
Yeah, she's
lost a lot of weight.
She's lost all her muscle.
She's had all of her hair cut off, like
prison
so
style,
much.
like shave the head, military style, prison style, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Yeah,
it's that kind of thing that is really.
Well, the thing is, for them, right, so I'm going to say, like, as I said, I hated the idea of playing as Abby originally. I'm all about #Team Ellie. You know, that's what I went into this game to play as Ellie. However, by the time I get to the end of the game, I just want none of them to kill one another. And I don't feel like I'm on anyone's particular side. But the fact is, I was playing as Ellie, and I felt like I was playing as the bad guy during that last level. And that's the thing. Like, if I could just turn her around and tell her to go to fuck home, say sorry to Dinah, you know, like make back up, go back and have your peaceful family, and at the same time just have Abby be okay. That's all I wanted. I just wanted everyone to be okay, which is a weird feeling when you start the game like, I'm gonna fucking murder this bitch, you know, like you know, and it's so weird that a game can take you from I'm gonna murder her to please can we all just go on our own separate paths. But I think like if you want to look for the equivalent of like who is the new Joel kind of thing, it's actually Abby in my opinion. Like Abby is the spiritual successor kind of character to Joel, where she's the one who picks up a younger character in this and saves them and goes through the whole thing. Lev is Ellie, basically. If you want to look for sort of the parallels, it's not direct, obviously, but like the closest you're going to get. Ellie is not Joel in this game. She does not grow up to become Joel. What she does is not Joel equivalent. Like, she is not the spiritual successor to her father figure. That is not what actually happens. And I think that's a lot of reason people get kind of annoyed, because I remember that first trailer dropped, and you know, like the teaser where she's playing the guitar and then Joel walks in. I remember that time everyone was like, oh man, like I think he's dead, but like she's carrying him in her heart and she's going to use his strength because like all this sort of stuff. But that's not what happens at all. She just kind of uses his death as because she always goes on about how, and in that last scene you seen between them, how she wanted her life. She's like, if I had died, my life would have meant something. And she's kind of just been, you know, she's floating through these 6 years. I'm sure she has a happy moment, sad moments or whatever. But no matter what, ever since she found out that she could have saved the world, basically, she's felt like her life is just a waste. So the moment that Joel dies, she's like, a purpose. My new purpose is to avenge Joel. That is what is going to give my life purpose at this stage. And that's why I think she grabs onto it so fast, because up until then she's like, what do I do? What's the point of this? Yeah. What am I doing at this stage?
Think, you know what? She was... The sad thing is, I think just before... with the reconciliation with Joel and the forgiveness and stuff, that was her accepting that she could have a normal life and find meaning within it. That she could pursue... You know, she has the conversation with Joel about Dina. And that's quite, you know, Joel's awkward, like, conversation about it, trying to reach out when he doesn't really know.
The dad talk of, so you and Dinah.
yeah. Like, he's, and then she gets that taken away from her with Joel being brutally murdered in front of her. And she has to do what she can to try and make amends to that or find peace with that, because she's never going to get closure on her relationship with Joel now. No. Like, even though she was looking and striving to do that, that's impossible. She can't do that anymore. No. I was really worried at one point. I'm so glad how grounded in quote-unquote reality this game is, because I was worried / predicting that at some point she was going to have like a flashbacky dream sequencing moment where she speaks to Joel.
Yeah, I was like, all these rumors about her like seeing Ghost Joel and stuff. I was like, thank God that wasn't actually a thing.
Yes, thank God that's not true. Also, by the same time, we've now been told we can't trust video game trailers for fucking squat. The same we can't trust fucking Star Wars.
I love it.
Marvel, and it's so good. The fact that Naughty Dog went through the effort of changing, like they changed demos that people played last year or years ago. They changed fucking cinematics. They changed trailers for people. You know, all these images we had of Ellie riding a horse by herself was Ellie and Dina the whole time. Like, that's so fucking...
Yeah, and people are like, oh, dev's lying to us. I'm like, look, if the gameplay was representative of what the gameplay ended up being, which it was, and all they did was hide their narrative to protect their story,
100%.
Who fucking cares? Like, that's all they're hiding. They're not hiding, like, they're not downrating the quality of the graphics or, you know, like hashtag Puddlegate and all this fucking bullshit. They were simply protecting the narrative. Okay? Good. Do that. Yeah. More people do that. Protect your narrative. Let's have some fun. Let's have some secrets.
I think so many people as well, not only just the characters and the narrative right around them, but also, once again, the environmental storytelling in this game is fucking phenomenal.
I read more things and stopped to look at more random things, even just like what's on walls and inside shops and notes and whatever else in this game than I did in the first, by far.
And like, it's funny how, you know, like I would kept picking notes up, there was one moment in the game after the workbench scene that we've spoken about previously in Private Dylan, where you get attacked while using a workbench. I was sketchy as fuck every time I was reading a note, because I'd be like, okay, am I in a safe spot to read this? If no, I'm going to put it away, move somewhere, and then read
they only did it that once. And to be fair, when you enter that room, there are like this hanging like bottles from the door, and they ding when you walk in. And I remember stopping and going, well, obviously there's people here. But then I walked around for a bit and I was like, oh, maybe not. And then and
then there was obviously, there's a locked door that you can't get into. And so they do. But I was just on edge for the rest of the time. But like there was so many notes of just like the notes about in Hillcrest, the notes about the guy who had been protecting them with the bow and arrow. I can't remember his name. It begins with a J. You read several notes. I want to say Judge or George or something like that.
And I think there's like fan art of him, right?
There's fan art of him.
Yeah.
You go into his basement and there's like archery trophies.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of people like talking about him, and you read all these notes about his.
It's the equivalent of this game's
Ishmael.
Ishmael,
But I think there's a couple though this time.
Awesome.
Because there's this one, and then you actually then shortly into that Hillcrest section you run into him as a runner and he attacks you. And you kind of go, oh, and that's where you get Ellie's bow and everything. It's from the bow guy that they've been talking about. It's also another one about a wolf turned Scar. named
run away
Gray.
or whatever.
And he leaves notes everywhere for Jules.
Yeah.
And you follow his story through Seattle and what happened there, and you actually hear people talking about him several times when you're kind of sneaking around the wolves. I think there's a whole rage of just like, there's the Dungeons and Dragons apartment that I appreciated, but that had notes around it about the stories of people in there. I think it just did a really fantastic job of using its environments to tell stories and to, everything had an explanation. Those people that were hiding in that room and attacked you while you're using the workbench, those were wolves that were wanting to run away and escape and abandon the wolves.
And I just wanted to be like, just fucking stop. I'm not like.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not bad. I'm not here to kill you. I'm not a wolf. Like, just you guys can keep going. Sorry, I was
chillax. Sorry.
Just tinkering on my guns.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like there's just, and I love like, just even like everything in this game makes sense. When you go to the hospital, you pick up more pills and everything, or if you go to a pharmacy, you pick up more pills in this game.
Of a random location.
Yeah.
Even though most of the time the pills are found in bathrooms, so even then.
If fucking bathroom, check the sinks.
Yeah.
Check the sinks
exactly.
and you're good. But I think for me, I did think, wow, this is once again the same way we thought with Last of Us originally. This is what next generation gaming feels like. This is what this is now. Okay, shit. All right, this is. Like, I was a little upset there wasn't more sections like downtown Seattle where you're riding around and exploring. But as, Naughty Dog has kind of come to show that that's something they're doing in these games now. They're giving you like one kind of big quote-unquote open area for you to explore, and then it doesn't feature later. But, it's... For me, like the moment that hit the hardest was the music store with Take On Me. And just how music was used in general in this game. They used, I can never remember the name of it, but heavily throughout the game, Pearl Jam's, I think it's called Forever something, is used to, Forever or Future or something, is used to kind of talk about Joel's and Ellie's relationship. Joel plays it for her at the start of the game, and then Ellie starts playing it, and it's very personal. And then we finish the game just before that reconciliation flashback with her being unable to play it because she's lost 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And just the power and how much hurt that is that she's lost that. She's lost that in her quest for revenge.
Yep.
And how strong and powerful that is just an underlying message for this game.
Yeah. In her quest for revenge for Joel, she lost her main way of remembering him. Yeah. It's fucked up, but at the same time, it's just kind of poetic, really.
It's extremely poetic. And there's just, now you're just like, for me, now that I've thought about it, I'm like, that is, and the flashback on the reason the flashback is the last thing you see in the game after Ellie like leaves that farmhouse is because I think Ellie's going to go find Dina and JJ. I'm
gonna hope. Now I'm gonna shout out here because I know Kind of Funny's doing a spoiler cast with Neil Druckmann that's coming out soon. I don't know, like today, tomorrow, something like that.
Some point this week. Yeah.
Some point this week. Now I'm looking forward to that because I already know that Greg said he's going to ask Neil Druckmann what happens to Ellie after. Now I know Druckmann's going to give some sort of bullshit non-answer.
Wormy, fucking winky, hey.
But I'm fine if I never kind of know, because I'm going to presume they do a number 3, which we can kind of talk about in a second. But at the same time, that is probably my one I just would have liked a little tiny glimmer more hope for Ellie potentially. Now I can live without it because I think the ending's fine, but I just still desire that little tiny bit of hope. You know, it's hard to not desire that more little tiny glimpse of hope for her at the end. Just a tiny more sign of what exactly she's going to do. It's like,
well, I think the hope is the fact that she's thinking about that flashback when she leaves, because Joel did this terrible thing that she thought she could never forgive him for. But she wants to try and forgive him for it and be open to trying to forgive him for it. And I think that gives her hope that Dina can forgive her for leaving.
Yeah, I think it's like a dual reading, because obviously she's like, I can never forgive Abby, but maybe I could get to a stage where she could.
Yeah.
But then you can also read it as hopefully she's hoping that Dinah could also do the same thing for her. Which, and all in all, even with the way her ending is, it is still a happier ending than I think most people give it credit for, because the fact is that she's alive.
100%. She's still alive.
She stopped her revenge mission, and she, no matter where she's going, I believe it's on a better path than the one she was on, and it's on one of, like, it's a new beginning. Wherever she's heading, it's a new beginning, and it can only be for the good. Like, it's wherever she's heading is not for worse than the road she's on. So the ending is actually a lot more hopeful than it kind of feels, unless you actually kind of break down what's happening properly in that moment, you know? So you're saying you hope she goes just finds Dina.
I hope she's going to find Dina and JJ.
Well, let's tag this on, then build on the bigger question. So, because the title screen changes, right? When you finish the game, it's now boat on a beach overlooking this house. Now, I'm pretty sure
I've went back and looked. It's showing you the big roundhouse from Santa Barbara.
Which,
do you know, like, the thing, like, she's walking to, like, she gets told by the ponytail guy, go to the tracks and then go to the round domed building or whatever. That's where they're holding Abby. It's the same house.
You sure?
That. Yes. 100%.
100%?
100%. I checked it because we had this discussion and you told me your theory about it's showing that Abby has found the fireflies in Catalina Island, but I don't believe. I think that's a lot. Maybe it is, because maybe it's just showing that they've docked at another shore and it's light now and there's no more mist and everything. But I think it's just more symbolism to say
I don't think it's the same house. I don't think it's the same circular. It didn't look like the same.
Yeah, it is.
But why would the boat be there landed? Like, they've left. So
because it is the same image that we saw from the start. It's the same image as the title screen originally. It's just there's no more darkness and mist anymore. There's light because we can now see the light and we're not shrouded by darkness anymore in this game.
Well, I'm still going to roll with the fact that even without the confirmation,
but I believe,
I'm saying, well, we'll focus on the Abby and Lev are going for the fireflies, right? They're going to find the remnants, the couple hundred remaining fireflies. Ellie, we have no idea what she's doing. So if they do a Last of Us Part 3, which I think they will, because there's still some stuff to tell here, and, you know, trilogies work better than just straight up sequels. What do you think we would be doing in The Last of Us Part 2? Who would we even be playing as?
Well, I definitely think we'd be playing as Lev, because I feel like that's a very obvious kind of transition point.
I would say Abby or Lev, but yeah.
Abby or Lev, but I still think there's more Ellie to be played.
Yeah, I feel like you could still have, I agree. I feel like you could still have Ellie, but she wouldn't be the main character.
I don't know. I think she would.
Here's what I would love. Right, let me boil it down. So in a lot of ways, Last of Us Part 2 feels like it was designed firstly as Abby's game, and then they actually kind of
they made two games at the one, so they're like, fuck it, let's just put it together.
But I feel like they started with the Abby storyline. Like, that's kind of where the story may have started. Like, the idea of this surgeon's daughter trying to get revenge or something like that.
I think they started with Ellie's story, and then
we don't get Ellie's story without Abby, though. That's the thing.
No, but they started Ellie's story and then went, well, they started with Ellie's story of revenge, of getting back at something, and then like, but what if we continue this kind of duality of man in this world, and we establish, and then we also established the opposition, because I think Christine Steinman in the Kind of Funny Games, the spoiler cast, fantastically put. We've always been the us in Last of Us. Like, the us has always been Joel and Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
It's never like that's all, and that's why we were always so connected with Joel and Ellie, and that's why at the start of the game we're so angry that that Joel died. But when we become us with Abby, when that becomes the us, we then see their side of the story and we see their world and what's going on from that point. And that puts everything from what we've previously known into question of, fuck, Ellie's doing a lot of bad things again. Ellie is being quote unquote bad. We've really got to, we've really messed this up, or we've really making mistakes here. I think I think that they work so well together because of that. And because of building that. I think Neil Druckmann has done such a fantastic job of not only building this narrative, but also hiding this narrative for everybody, and also not being swayed into making this two separate games.
Yeah. Well, although also shout out to what's the name, Haley Gross, who wrote it with Neil. So not to get into too much because it's more the discussion of the gameplay, which we'll save for the spoiler through thing. But my biggest complaint, the reason I gave it a 9 out of 10, is because as much as I enjoy Abby's story and what happens, I feel like they could have cut down a lot of the enemy encounters and just had more of a narrative of exploration type stuff happen there to kind of just help with the game's pacing. Because many of those encounters, I'm like, why? I understand it's a video game, but we probably it kind of killed the pacing for me a bit. And it wasn't that I'm one of these people that's like, I hate playing as Abby, stop making me play. At this stage, I was like, I'm sick of fighting people because just fucking doesn't feel necessary at this point.
I think that's part of the game, though. I think that's part of the narrative.
I mean, it is, but at the same time,
it's because people are fighting people in this world just cause. It's supposed to be boring and monotonous because it's just, which is a weird defense for that.
They hit that on the nail at the end, and I just feel like they could have cut down. They could have cut, I reckon, an hour or two's playtime easily by a couple of encounters.
I don't think any of this felt as gamey, though, as that moment in Autumn for Last of Us 1, where you have to chase after Ellie on the horseback with Tommy, and then all of a sudden there's a random fucking...
Oh, yeah, and then you run into enemy encounters.
You run into enemies
there's
to
still
fight
some
there.
parts like this, like the fact, like, you'd be going along as Abby or whatever, and you'd just run into, random clickers that you have to deal with and whatever else. I'm like, we could have just not had this here, because now I've spent, 20 minutes, half an hour...
The thing is, I think it could have been a lot worse. I was worried about the bridges section being just fighting people up in the bridges, but there was, once you got past a few people in the lower levels, you were fine. I think maybe for me as well, and it probably why I found some of the areas a little harder than maybe you did. There were some of the areas where as soon as the jig was up, I pieced out and found the exit to that area. There was one in after Chinatown when you run into the base as you're by yourself as Abby, where I was just like, jig is up, I'm just going to bail and find the exit and leave. I think another one happened on the island where there's a camp you're supposed to go through. I shot one person, immediately they didn't instantly die from it, and everybody was there and there was heaps, and I just bailed and went straight for the log cutting lodge just to get out.
So far without getting killed.
Because I'm just dodging and weaving and just the trick is, as long as you don't directly run at any enemies, you're fine.
If you run at them, they don't miss any shots.
They don't miss a shot. It's even it's obviously a mechanic because it tells you if you run at people, people are deadly accurate. It's
bad,
but at the same time, it's just the fact of maybe I skipped some of the quote unquote gaminess by piecing out.
I also just think they could have lost some because Abby's section actually has the best action scenes and fights in the whole game, in my opinion.
Yes.
So the fact that she already has those, to me, I'm like, she already gets the best boss fight that's out of Resident Evil, right? Versing a giant new fucking whatever that's called. I don't think it gets an official name. Giant thing that looks like its nemesis is
from Ground Zero. That's just splitting off into
it's like this is it's like all of them build one. That thing's messed up, massive. One of the biggest fights in the game. Also, one of my favorite levels in the entire game is Abby and Lev go through the hospital and you have to go that trip down that building that feels like it's a proper horror game and you're fighting everyone. So I just think that Abby's sections has so many highs when it comes to the actual combat that I'm like, we could have done of less of the just typical random encounters. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, we don't need.
I will say when we got to the aquarium as Abby and you have you have Yara bleeding out with her arm or her arm being fucked up, and they're like, right, you need to go across the other side of the city to get this stuff. I was honestly like,
she's
fuck.
dead.
Like, I was like, I can't be bothered doing that. This sounds like it's going to take forever. Like, I know how long it took me as Ellie to get from the hospital through to fucking, like, but then they're like, no, you're fine. You're going across these bridges, whatever.
You're taking a shortcut up in the sky.
Exactly. That's not terrible, but whatever. I also once again, talk about this during our spoiler-free stuff, but I was a little disappointed that I think one of our takeaways from the Left Behind DLC that there was going to be a lot more
human
and infected happening at the same time. I think it only happened maybe 4 or 5 times.
The key one was in that subway section, which is really cool though.
Yes, which was fucking awesome because I like threw a bottle and just let the infected do their job.
Yep, that's exactly
like I was
what
like,
I did.
yep, you boys, and then I snuck through and avoided all the infected and got out because I was like, you boys do your job. Like, but then there was the doubt because I think they tried to do it again in the.
They do it at the bottom of the hospital section when you're playing as Ellie as well. When
you're playing as Ellie, and then there's also the chained up ones in the camp. But most of the time, whenever I released those, they were like instantly gunned down.
Yeah, I was like,
well, that was pointless.
Can you kill one
The only
person?
time it worked was when. The only time it worked was when there was like the 2 chained together, like the clicker and the one that I released them. I was like. But it was a little disappointing. But other than that, I think this game is a masterpiece. I don't know if I could give a number to it ever. Like, I just don't. I think it kind of is something that I think is special to whoever plays it and actually gives it the time of day to play it. Not one of these fucking morons that played it for 3 hours and be like, yeah, I'm done. Joel died. Yeah. I hate this game. It sucks. It's like, and like one of the interesting thing was, so Tim Geddes suggested that it would be cool if the player was given the control of Abby when she's killing Joel. Like, you have to press square to make her hit Joel with the golf club.
That's getting into the torture porn level of.
Actually, I'm like, A, that's getting slightly into torture porn, but B, I'm like, no, because if I did that, I wouldn't hate Abby as much as I do. Like, I wouldn't hate Abby as much as I do, and then that hate isn't turned into appreciation and affection later in the game. I don't think it has the same effect so much, where it's like, because I can say, I didn't do that. That was out of my control. That was completely...
And for the most part, the game is quite focused on who it wants you to be thinking about the most during its violent acts. Like, anytime Ellie kills someone, most of the time the camera pans up to her. Like, she begins stabbing someone or choking someone or whatever, and the camera pans up to her, be that killing the 2 in the place, and then also obviously when she's choking out Abby at the end, the camera's not focused on Abby like struggling to breathe as life drains out of her. The camera starts panning up to Ellie, and you see the violence literally exploding from her to the point that she, lets go and realizes what she's doing is probably not the best course of action for her life, I guess. But
do you have any like favorite moments we haven't talked about or anything yet that you really?
I mean, I feel like we could go for a while because there's few in it. There's obviously heaps of things. And again, it's like I would say honestly, my 2. It's hard to pick. I actually feel like Lev might be my favorite character in the game, and I have lots of small moments between him and Abby where they're talking that are probably some of my favorite in the game. And I think that's a lot why that chapter is my favorite, because not only do I think the action and the horror elements in that where they go through the building, get to the hospital, is just like creepy as all fuck, and it's quite scary, and it's one of the more intense moments of the game, but also their bonding in that level, I think, is when I started to really fall for both Lev and Abby as characters, and then them as a duo, and start getting too attached to them. So that is probably my favorite level, and there's lots I could talk about there. But we haven't spent much on Dinah. Love her.
She's amazing. Like, there was, you know what? When Joel died, I was very disappointed that I felt like I wasn't going to get the Joel and Ellie moments of conversation and banter that I fucking adored in the first game.
But you get
I was really worried about that. And yes, I still got those with the flashbacks, but I didn't realize at the time. But Dina and Ellie's relationship and their back and forth is so amazing and so wholesome and so fun. Like that, I think exploring Seattle, like that open area one where you kind of go to the bank or whatever, the music store, that wouldn't have been as good if it was just Ellie by herself.
No.
Because of just all of the back and forth and conversations those two have, so I grew to adore them.
Yeah.
And like the heartbreaking moment of, like it goes back to me feeling like a dad for Ellie and whatever, but that moment where Ellie was getting frustrated and angry the fact that Dina was pregnant, and she goes, well, you're useless now, or something along those lines. And in that moment, I was like, Ellie, you done fucked up.
Yeah.
you need to apologize right now. And you could see Ellie was going through the same emotions and everything. And it was so nice to see a relationship between two female characters that was real and wholesome and not overly sexualized, not like it was there to please a male audience base. It was there to tell a real story of two human beings.
Yeah, and the only person who has a sex scene in this whole game is Abby, so
yeah.
There you go. Which, again, seen lots of people, apparently that's a meme for incels, I guess, online or something, like they keep making fun of Abby. I don't get it. I don't get it. But lots of people make fun of the fact, like making fun of her, the fact she's built like a fucking person that would beat the shit out of you. And it's spoilers, dudes, if you're, she would. Like, there's all these fucking nerds on the internet who are like, fucking Abby sucks, fucking look at her. She, like, I mean, they're like, oh, she looks like a man, or, like this sort of shit. I'm like, why? Like, 'cause you've only ever seen a female that is what? Not, you've never seen a female with muscles? What? There are women bodybuilders out there. What's wrong with you?
But that also calls back to video games' unrealistic
the body hairs of a thing.
Oh, fucking...
That's another thing. People keep making fun of the fact they have armpit hair. I'm like, it's the fucking apocalypse. Who's finding a shaver and who cares to shave their armpits at this stage? For fuck's sake.
It's just a case of, video games for so long have had an unrealistic view of the female body. And now we have games like Last of Us that have a cast of female characters that have realistic body types. Like realistic, they don't have massive chests, they don't, have massive, butts that are so disproportionate to the rest of their body that you're like, how do you walk? Do you not fall over backwards all the time? They're realistic, and I think gamers that are shitty people just don't understand that, and they really just it's this whole culture that is review bombing this game, and people speaking out about Neil Druckmann, saying rumors that Neil Druckmann did a motion capture with Laura Bailey for that sex scene and stuff. It's like, no, fuck off. Like, just
I don't know how these rumors get started. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's so disgusting and weird and just disappointing.
It's really quite odd. Do you have any other favorite moments to call out then? Because I can't really pick one. I just was
there's so much. Like, the thing is, it's such a quote unquote experience or narrative, just kind of event that just going on, and just little things like playing catch with Alice in the aquarium, and then showing Yara it's okay to kind of
pet the dog,
to play with the dog and pet the dog, because they've always been scared of these dogs because they hunt after them and kill them. It's these special, really wholesome and loving moments that you really connect with characters, and you're allowed to kind of take a break from the stress of playing through this game. And then it in different ways it all gets ripped, and this isn't a good point, but I fucking love how this game treats death. Death can be so quick.
Yep. Most of the time it is in this game. It's not slow motion shot of character dying. It's oh, they're dead.
Jesse's death is so quick, and so it's almost but the thing, nobody starts crying about it. Nobody breaks down. There's no time to. There's just everybody, but it's such a small event, Isaac's death is just Yara shoots him. like just on the spot, like when from lying down and dying. You know, it treats death with such respect, but so setting the narrative that death can be quick and it can happen to anybody, and you don't need to glorify it. You don't need to make it a big event, because in this world, death isn't a big event. It happens every day.
Also want to point out for Isaac, he was played by Jeffrey Wright, who is like from Westworld and is going to play Commissioner Gordon in an upcoming Batman thing. And he's like has barely any scenes and he just dies like that.
Yep, 100%. He doesn't even get like a massive maniacal rant about anything or a fucking self-righteous speech. It's just like, no, he goes out like that. It's like...
And the fact that Yara dies, I was like, oh my God.
Oh, Yara dying was, especially, you know, part of the comical side of me that's in the back of my head when I'm feeling emotions was still like, you mean I went all the way to the fucking hospital for this?
Yeah.
For this? Fuck, no, I was still...
the way it is, you know?
Yeah, it still sucks.
BL, you know, can't win them all. I'll say, just wrapping up, I just want to... I find it hard to say because I guess I would say of them at level, probably my favorite moment, even though it's weird to say because it gets completely ruined, obviously, is probably the combination of that tractor scene and just walking around the house with JJ, which is weird to look back on because if I think about it now, I just feel shit because it's not what ends up happening. Like I can't feel happy about that moment really because like she's lost that, but I guess I can try and feel good about it and like with the idea that there's still hope that Ellie could get that back. And if I believe that she gets that back, then maybe I can look at that moment and actually feel better about it. But it's like this really bittersweet moment to pick as my favorite. But it probably is like, because as I said, I spent a long time there as I do with the Life is Strange things. And because it was like the only time in a long time the game had kind of let up,
slowed down
and let me just like, chill the fuck out. And do what I want. And also I was like, this baby's adorable, the way they're animating it and it's like looking around at things as you walk past it and whatever else. I was just like, this is great.
Ellie interacting with him was just like, she has like a little song calling him her little potato and stuff that's like...
She's doing the dances.
Dancing with Dina and stuff when she puts the music on and just everything. And you're like, fuck, man. Like, I was like... At first, I was like, when you're going into the back of the barn with him, I was like, don't there dare be somebody here trying to fucking kill her. I was waiting for
a clicker or something.
Don't you dare. Yeah, be a clicker or some shit that's in the back of the barn. Don't you dare. Don't do this to me. I'm not okay. And then it was...
The most weirdest... You know, sometimes you have thoughts go through your head that seem like they'll take longer than a second, but your brain kind of just processes them in a second. So one of my 1 second thoughts that happened there, and then I quickly was like, nah, surely not, was as she's walking to the back corner or whatever where it's dark, I was like, what if someone jumped out and like bit JJ and then it turned out he was immune as well? And that's like the setup for the sequel.
I thought that. And
but I was like, but it's not her child though. Like, where?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he could just randomly be immune like she is, I guess. But I was like, maybe that's the direction they're taking the story because...
I was also really worried when she got bit. When Ellie got bit, I was like...
They're going to say that she's not immune anymore or some...
Even before it worked, like, there's a reveal that the immunity's wearing off and shit, and you're like... I'm like, oh, no, don't do
It's also quite interesting. Again. That's another thing worth bringing up, how much the original game focuses... Like, the plot... Everything about that plot is built on Ellie and the fact that she's immune, and that's, like, the driving force behind everything that happens is her immunity. And this game really is, like... Not even a thing.
Like she doesn't even have like the bite anymore because she burnt it off her arm with the chemical burn, which I did think we were going to see that in a flashback at some point, but no, they were kind of like,
it's like whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, good, okay. I was like, good. I didn't really want to watch that, but like she doesn't have the bite anymore. Her arm's covered over with a tattoo, completely kind of covers everything. You know, it's her immunity is a moot point now. It's the thing that surprised me is that Abby didn't even care that she was the one that was immune. Like, Abby it doesn't seem to register.
Because she's Ellie like, well, the only person could do it is gone, which is my father. So she's like, her brain is literally just switched off to the idea of her being able to do anything. She's just like, so what? Don't care. You're just a normal person now. We can't use you. You know? Like, what good are you? In a lot of ways, I do wonder if they do a part 3, like, if they ever return to that idea or, like, I don't know, because I feel like if they do a part 3... And they announced like this is the last one. Because the reason I really believe there would be a part 3 is because they never announced this is it, this is all we got. Like, whereas, you know, Uncharted 4, they were like, this is the wrap up of the story. This is what we're kind of done with it. So in a lot of ways, I feel like if they were like, yeah, we're 2 and done, I feel like they kind of would have said that or something along those lines. So I feel like there would be a 3. I hope there is a 3 because I feel like there's obviously a lot more to explore here.
I don't think this game would have ended as quote unquote ambiguously.
No,
as
if it was the finale, that would be
if
really
it was
shitty.
the finale.
Yeah, so
correct.
As if this is like Empire Strikes Back, where it's a dark ending, right? So if we're going to go for a more uplifting ending,
You could,
in the
you know
third
what?
and
It could
finale.
happen. It could happen. Abby and Lev rock up at the Fireflies. The Fireflies go, "Hey, we're working on, you know, this. We're working on the cure again.
Yeah.
We've found some stuff. We need
samples.
It's a shame. It's a shame that we never had
samples of
the
that girl's blood or something to test
it's a
on.
shame that we never had.
Yeah.
And then Abby just like slaps her knee and she's like, God damn it.
I'm going back out to try and find that girl.
Going back out to try and find her.
In a lot of ways, I feel like that would actually, like, you don't have to make it maybe as predictable. And, you know, there's obviously, you could add in things to, you know, like villains of different sorts to come across. But the game's always built on the human narrative. So, like, I feel like there obviously has to be a little bit more to it. But at the same time, even if it sounds like cliche and like just a little bit too happy, I would be okay if the finale, the last game, wraps up time to where it starts, where Ellie actually gets to redeem herself by helping make a cure. Now, I'm hoping that the person they get to do it means that I don't want her to die, because I think having her sacrifice herself is kind of returning to her wanting to make her life about something, whereas I feel like the end of this game is like she realizes that her life doesn't actually have to be about doing something major, and I feel like that would kind of backtrack that. However, if it is like about where they could just like take her blood and like they found a way to do it that way, or like scan, I don't know, you know, like if they have another way to scan it, that they found a different surgeon that, you know, like not to say it's better than Abby's dad, but he like specialized in a different sort of thing, and maybe he's got different ideas about it, or whatever else. Or even if I find someone else, I feel like if they do a third one and they want it to be the finale, I would actually kind of like a happier ending. Like, and I understand that it's a fucked up world, and, you know, maybe they don't want to give too much of a happy ending, but I feel like you could have just a little bit of hope. And if they found if they teased that they would get a cure, but never actually confirmed that it worked or not, even that in the finale, I'd be like, well, teasing that there is a cure would be enough hope to kind of wrap up the franchise with, I guess. And it would make Ellie feel a lot better about everything that's gone down. It would make Abby feel everything better as well. Like, both characters would kind of feel better, because Abby would be getting what her dad wanted. Ellie would be getting to kind of help do what she was originally supposed to do. So it would wrap up both character stories.
I would love it. The thing is, if there is a cure, I would love it if getting the cure wasn't the end. I'd love to play a game, one of these zombie outbreak games where
skips ahead like 5 years, where they're rebuilding,
where rebuilding and fixing the world is happening in the game, because we don't get that in zombie storylines.
No, it's like, oh, the end credits. Like, maybe they fix the world up.
Yeah, it's like talk about the story of people, of how do they go on with their lives when they've been through all this shit now. Like, how do people like go accustomed to that and grow with that and stuff? Like wouldn't it be really interesting to see Ellie in a world that didn't have infected and clickers in it? Like, it'd be really interesting. I think that'd be an interesting narrative.
Well, if the game skipped ahead 20 years originally, if it ends and then it skips ahead 20 years to a more peaceful time, that would kind of you know, wrap everything up nice with a bow. Ellie would be, like, let's say the next game takes place another like 5-6 years later. Ellie would be what, like, should be like 30-ish. No, like, should be mid-20s.
No, she'd be like 29-ish.
Yeah. Oh, no, but I mean, if you skip ahead 20, but in our imaginary version, she would be like 40s or close
39,
to late
39,
30s.
40.
Yeah. By the time the game wraps up in our imaginary third game.
We also don't know how old if Ellie has turned 20 by...
I would presume, because pretty much, I think they said if you read stuff, it's like 18 months later, basically, when the skip between her escaping Abby and then setting up the farm life is like a year and a half. So she would be 20 something.
I was really annoyed. I never opened up the journal the last time that Ellie goes back to the farmhouse, because I didn't think about it. I was too kind of just to see, because I like whenever there was a time jump or whenever something happened, there was always stuff.
Yeah.
There was always new stuff written in the journal to read through and stuff. And obviously, it'd taken Ellie a little while to get back from Santa Barbara and everything to come back. So it'd be interesting just to kind of see a little bit more about what had happened. But yeah, it's the other thing I did think I was a little bit worried at one part of the game where they started talking about seasonal changes and hordes of these zombies, where I was like, is this going towards days gone a little bit here? Like there's in her writing, she talks about hiding in a basement from a horde of zombies. And then
Tommy calls them hordes, but I'm like, that's not really it's just a term that would make sense for people to call.
Yes.
Especially because he's like, probably a farming type. He's like, these are hordes of zombies, not like Days Gone hordes. That would be a weird tie. No, they are their own separate universes, but.
Oh no, it wasn't insinuating that they were joined, but yeah, it was very much here's some of the things that we got from Days Gone a little bit, but sure. Yeah.
I get the final thing I want to say before we just wrap up is that as much as I do like this game and I love the narrative, it's going to be some time before I return to it. That is for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll still be a while before I play it again. Maybe I'll even wait until the next one's announced, and then I'll play through the first one again and this one all in like one kind of go. But
double thing, yeah. Because my plan originally was like, the platinum doesn't look hard for this one. I'll dive straight back in and clean up all my collectibles. But then by the time I finish the game, I'm like, I can't not. If I felt this when I finished the first one, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be a while before I replay this. Like that was a special experience. This game is less, that's a special experience, it's gonna be a while to play it. It's more of, I don't want to experience that anytime soon again. I don't want to go through that.
The thing with it as well is the fact that this game is it's as we've said already, this is a heavy game. Yep. This game goes deeper into the darker territories of narratives and writing than maybe a lot of video games go into in a more realistic and gritty manner. So I do suggest for people listening, talk to people about the game. Like if you're, if it's affected you in any way, or still just talk about it just with somebody just to even get it all out. Even if it means,
It's my weird comparison is so I really like a movie like Hereditary, right? I think it's a great movie. I've only ever watched it once because it's just so dark and fucked up of an experience. I don't want to go through that again. Maybe ever, or at least for several years. I'm still like, fantastic movie. Which is kind of how I feel about this. I'm like, fantastic story narrative in this game, absolutely dark. But I think the other thing that pushes this forward to being even more sort of impactful to making you feel like shit is that it's not a 2-hour movie. It's a 20-something, nearly 30-hour game. And I think just how much longer it is compared to a couple-hour movie, if it's super dark, is this just drags you for the mud for so much longer than any sort of movie or TV show would over a period of time. And that's the different factor between this and a movie, I guess. Yeah. So I find it weird to see people already like, New Game Plus runs. I'm like, nah, dude. Nah, not going to happen.
It's like, I'm interested to see for me if it does fall into the territory of, like, I have a small list of games where I'm like, I'm never going back to them. Like The Walking Dead Season 1, where I'm like, there's only like a couple reasons why I'd ever go play that again, because they're such special experiences to me that I'm like, I don't want to.
Well, for a lot of those games, I just never want to. Like, I have my one experience where I make my choices, whereas at least with The Last of Us, you're experiencing the same story every time. It's just.
But I'm still like so deeply connected with the characters and everything, and I never want to play this game in a situation where I am numb to those feelings or emotions. Where I'm just playing it because it is a game, not playing it because I love these characters and love the experience and everything.
Yeah. I guess maybe the only reason I would dive back into it sooner than I probably plan to is if they do like a PS5 version that's early next year or something. Maybe then. But I probably wouldn't finish it, to be honest. I'd probably get it and like play it and then not finish it.
Minor thing that is more kind of gaming infrastructure related than anything than spoilers. This game fucking is like even though I've seen people being like, oh, it's making my PlayStation like run really loudly and stuff, this game loads so quickly. Like, there is like zero time between dying and then respawning. Like, there's like a couple seconds tops. And I never feel like I'm stuck at a load screen. Everything just feels like it. And it's like, well, this is on the PS4.
Yeah.
So what's this game like, or any game like, on PS5?
Yeah. Well, I guess if they did a PS5 remastered version, I would expect the option between 60 frames and high quality, which this currently doesn't have. Even on the Pro, which is quite weird, it doesn't actually have the option for high performance over quality. And then I obviously would expect full 4K resolution, which I don't think this has currently. I think it's like maybe 2K up-res or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
And if they added ray tracing, that would be fucking intense, but I maybe not going to ask for that. But that would be obviously intense if they do one. But that's this is the only way I see myself diving back into this anywhere near the like next 12 months is if that released. What I will dive into is if they released it, if obviously... No, I think it's pretty obvious at this point the multiplayer mode's coming, and that's separate to me. That's not going to count as replaying the game. That's
no.
You know,
you would be. Do you think it's going to be interesting that the multiplayer mode's probably going to be between?
It'll be the wolves and the scars
and the Seraphites or the scars. Yeah,
that's what the mode will be. Yeah, and that makes sense because the I mean the original was between the two factions. This one there'll probably be about two factions. I mean, make it about two factions. Sure, go for gold. I'm interested to see if they do any DLC though. That's the other thing. Like,
I doubt. I kind of want to say I doubt it, but at the same time, I probably would have said I doubt it to The Last of Us 1 getting DLC. So
yeah, and I don't know what they would do it for either. That's the other thing.
Because I don't think they wouldn't carry on the story.
No, I would say if they do DLC, it's Abby. It's not Ellie.
It's something to do with Abby.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Abby meeting the Fireflies or some shit.
Nah, because that's the sequel. So I feel like if they did it, maybe it could be just a random thing that happens, but in that 18 months on Ellie's farm life before.
Possibly. You could even have more. Oh no, it'd be weird to go back to Ellie and Dina.
Yeah.
In that 18 months,
no, can't do it.
Even though it'd be interesting to see their kind of Ellie and Dina directly after the fight in the theater. And everything they went to get Tommy back and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's like kind of guess what happens. Like they cry, they
but also like there's stuff like you don't know what happens between the wolves and the scars and stuff or stuff like that. I think might be interesting.
Yeah, but again, it's like that's another thing where it's like you literally last time you see them, they're all fighting. It's like who wins? No one. Like the whole island's on fire. Like both sides are going to lose most people. You know who wins that fight, and the answer is the infected. Like that's it. That's who wins that fight. The infected got a bunch more people. All right. Well, I guess I'll do it for this Last of Us Part 2 spoiler discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it. I don't like it. It's so weird. Like, cause to say like spent so long in the build up to the game, obviously like discussing trailers and like random rumors and stuff. And now it's like I played it. I've recorded a spoiler cast. I'll probably continue to talk about it with different people as different people finish it and they're like, talk to me about it or whatever. But other than that, I feel like there was like such a thing and now I'm just like, and it's over? Like, it's weird.
And it's over. And I'm like, and even just like people are like, yeah, but you've got, Ghost of Tsushima coming out in a couple of weeks where I'm like, yeah, but that game's completely different for me because I'm not emotionally attached to that game.
And I'm excited for that, like, but I'm not like
I'm excited.
I'm still coming off my Last of Us at the moment, so I'm not quite ready to get like Samurai Times.
Like even like I'll pick up Horizon and stuff, but I'll be like, I'm playing Horizon to play a game as a game, like just as like like that doesn't have that. Like even in The Last of Us, there is a weight to the gameplay. Every movement, every choice you make of what you're building and stuff feels like it has like a lot of weight to it and tension. Whereas like Horizon, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm happy to, fucking go run rampage on machines and humans and stuff. It's fine.
Yeah. Cool. Let us know what you thought of the game by emailing, probably. And if we get enough, I'll do an episode where I'll read your thoughts. I don't know. Just email me to tell me at mail@explosion.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. Go for there. Don't tell us on Twitter because obviously people see spoilers on Twitter and you can't just like hide them things to say like spoiler here, click here to reveal. But if you do want to talk to us on Twitter, you can find all of our Twitters by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Of course, head on over to explosionnetwork.com where you can find my full spoiler-free review if you'd like to give that a quick read or see what score I gave it. I gave it a 9. And if you want to read my opinion piece thing where I talk about the ending and just my overall thoughts on things, that is also, of course, on explosionnetwork.com. And tune into our regularly scheduled episodes of Platinum Explosion, because this has been a fun spoiler cast. But there's going to be a regular episode, probably out. By the time you listen to this, it's probably out, to be honest. I mean, or it's probably coming out in a couple hours. Who fucking knows? We'll enjoy it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say.